is knowing how to do this. And so since we're all here, we're all at different levels of skill set. But what I really appreciate about the main support Google website, support.google.com, and the app that you're in, is that they address the multi-platform. So it starts up with computer, and then it moves. How do you do it if you're on an Android device? How do you do it if you're on an iPhone or an iPad? Isn't this awesome, guys? Isn't this amazing? I love this, because when you're training and if you're showing people how to use stuff, we're usually browser based and we're usually doing it here. So you need to be able to provide something else for those other users that are on a mobile device situation, and these address the steps for that. I love it. So that's by product. If I go to this one, this takes me to a similar place. And let's say I go to Drive, same place, and what it'll do is it gives you other resources, but these, ladies and gentlemen, are more centered towards the teacher view or the education perspective. This is a more broad productivity base for businesses, small businesses, nonprofit organizations like a place of worship, and schools. So I mean, it's all inclusive, these kind of help forums, but these are more these resources are more geared toward education. So I decided to include that there also. So here, other support for Google for Education. If you click that, that takes you to another place. But listen, if in here are recommended readings for Google Classroom. If I click here, it's going to take me to a similar place that I showed you earlier for Google Drive. See how it looks the same, but this is Google Drive and this is Google Classroom. Well, it's the same the way that this looked before I drill down. Let me take a couple of steps back so you can see what I mean. Oh, it's gonna keep me stuck there. Let me just get back over here. There you are. So this is Google Drive. This is Google Classroom. You see how the setup is the same? So a couple of questions, a lot of questions on Google Classroom right now. So how do I turn in an assignment? If you come here, it tells you how to turn in an assignment. And then it takes you, and isn't this amazing? I love this. And look, it even does the screenshots and everything. So I wanted to make sure that y'all knew that that was there. Why reinvent the wheel, right? And then at the end, there's a link that'll take you to the Google for Education YouTube channel that you might want to subscribe to. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Has the agenda been updated? Where am I?
So you want to send the attendance again? We had some people just hop in right now. I had to step out, so I couldn't get the link.
Okay, let me get the link real quick.
I can repost it.
Okay.
I can repost them all again. Carlos.
Perfect. Thank you, Maggie.
Uh-huh.
All right, so let me go back to Twitter. Okay, so one of the things is that we do a lot, and one of the questions as to why are you, if you are on Twitter when you're joining our group, is because it's easier to communicate with you if you are on Twitter. And if you're very privacy focused, I would suggest using Twitter only for something called a PLN. So if you never heard of the term, PLN is a Professional Learning Network. This is a network of professionals that you talk to, that you associate yourself with, that you communicate with. And the whole term learn is because we're learning from each other. So the main thing here is, in order for us to keep learning, we need a way to share ideas and understand from others what they have to share. So that's one of the reasons to why we use Twitter a lot. And I would highly recommend to start following our group's Twitter, which is managed by our share captain at Geg_Soutx. Okay, so I'm gonna open the chat. Where's the chat? Over here. I'm gonna open the chat for people that wanna give me some kind of feedback on how they have used Twitter and tips on what they have for Twitter. So while somebody posts what they have used Twitter for, I want to share, for example, one of the best things that I have seen on Twitter is understanding that on Twitter, I found more information as to how to teach online since before all this came to our region. Since it happened across the world, we started understanding ahead of time on Twitter. By the time it got to here, well, us that are trainers understood what needed to get done, and we were trying to, in a rush, learn from them. And it was thanks to Twitter that we found many resources. Fonz, you want to talk about lists?
Yeah, lists is a great way for you to just put people that you know that you're continually in contact with. If you're not familiar with that, where lists are, if you click on your profile, you'll see under profile, you'll see your picture, you're under your followers, you'll see lists, and then you can go ahead and create a list and name it. And then, like, for example, I'm going to start one off that says Geg-Soutx Texas. So once I get the attendance from Carlos and he shares that, I can add you to that list to be part of that. And then we can go ahead and it'd be an easier way to find everybody instead of digging through hashtag or Twitter handles and things of that sort. You're already there on my list. So that works out really well. So I use that for my personal Twitter page as well. And so it really is a huge time saver because sometimes you may forget, like, Carlos, is it at C Garza? Is it at it? And so instead of all of that, I can go to my list and say, oh, okay, here's the Twitter handle. Boom, there you go. So that's a really great tool. I think it's often underutilized. I don't know if many people, or use it here as well. I'd love to hear some of your ideas as to how you would use the lists.
And you also wanted to say something about Twitter chats?
Oh, yes, Twitter chats also. And again, I was just piggybacking off of, I think Dr. Karen was the one that posted something on Twitter chats. Do you want to go ahead and add to that, Dr. Karen?
Sure. I like the Twitter chats because they're usually no more than 5 questions, and they usually post them ahead and they'll say, okay, we're going to have a Twitter chat for the 30 minutes, like 7:30 to 8 o'clock. It'll be the GEG South Texas. And we're going to talk about these 5 questions. And so everyone gets ready, and then they do Q1, and they post a tweet out just the question, usually with a cute little picture. And then everyone does their responses so that each question can have up, infinite number of responses and ideas and answers. Like, how did you connect with your students this week? That could be the first question. Then everyone responds. And so you can also have slow chats, which are interesting because then the question, instead of everyone having to be on there and in for all 5 questions in that 30 minutes, it can be over a week. So the question 1 goes the first day, question 2 the next, question 3, and that way at your leisure, when you have time, you can answer. But there's all kinds of on any topic, just and that way it reaches out internationally and you get responses from all kinds of people, and it's pretty interesting.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so Maggie, that's an awesome quote. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. I first heard it from Carl Hooker back in 2015. And I had gotten a Twitter back in 2009, and I started following people like from TCEA, like Monica Martinez and Lori Gracie, And then I met Austin Kleon, an author, and then I discovered Periscope, and then I started like following these really smart book authors, and they would tweet at me, and so I thought that being able to connect with them through Twitter and keep learning from them and their awesomeness. I thought it was really awesome way to use the tool. A lot of the people, like when we first introduced the idea of using Twitter to build PLN, I know I get a lot of like some kickback, and it's true. In another world other than education, Twitter is used for other purposes. But if you're very clear about your purpose and as to why you're using it, like Carlos said, to build your learning network, then I think it puts us a little more at ease. And if you begin to follow the people, your customized, like recommended, starts the algorithm starts working on your behalf and starts looking at the things that you are interested in and starts almost curating it for you. Not that you have to, but like I've been able to connect with really amazing people, like really honestly, like really, I have stories to tell about the success that I've had with connecting with people from around the world, and then meeting them at places like ISTE, and after chatting with them, and and meeting them virtually and learning from them. But the quote does say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I think with educational technology and learning with technology, um, being okay with saying I don't know is okay to say I don't know. And then connecting with the folks that are amazing at it and have been investing personal time in building their skill level. And I think that that's kind of what will help us during this journey and moving forward as we are now impacted with this new way of learning, right? So, yep. That's all I got to say about that.
Awesome. Okay. So next one, Molly has a good point regarding FERPA. You want to tell us about it?
Sure. I work in a school that's very conscious of making sure that we are following FERPA, rules and things like that. And we've fallen into some situations where people have not been aware of parents who have filled out the form at the beginning of the year that they do not want their child posted on any social media. Mm-hmm. So as a precaution in my own classroom, I teach kindergarten. So especially with the littles, I've often sent home a specific Twitter permission slip because Twitter to me is different than being posted on the school's website. So just to make sure I'm covered in terms of that, I send home a Twitter permission slip to make sure that any pictures I take of things that are happening in the classroom, that students can be allowed to be on social media instead of just like school media, because to me there's a difference. So and that seems to have helped, with the decline of anybody saying, "Oh, I didn't want my picture there," and things like that. So just a good, keep it in the back of your head to remember for the future.
Awesome, thank you. And also, you said something about follow Google EDU. Is that the hashtag or the Twitter handle?
I believe it is actually the Twitter handle, Google EDU. But they put out articles and about up and coming Google options. And like today, they just posted about Google Meet being free until September 30th. So that's just a great way to keep up with upcoming news with Google EDU. I've learned more about certifications that way and things like that as well.
All right, thank you. All right, Omar Lopez, you want to tell us about how we can connect?
Okay, we're good on audio?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. It's just looking and finding like-minded teachers or educators that we have the same ideas of innovating. And one of the things I know that Feli and I constantly talk about is being authentic creators. I know as Apple Distinguished Educators, that's one big thing that we push for creativity. So we're looking at, ideas to get creative in the classroom, and it's amazing how people share on Twitter so selflessly. I know that as soon as we, when our kids do something awesome, we want to showcase their work right away, or a screenshot of what they're creating. So that's one of the things that we like. I know this is a gig group, but after all, or overall, we're all educators and we're all in it for the kiddos. So I know one of the hashtags that we follow is the "Everyone Can Create" from the Apple Apple EDU. So that's one of the hashtags. When we saw George Couros also, and reading through his book, he just, talked about just searching the hashtag, first grade math or science labs, things like that, that could be so basic. But then, and that's what we do as educators. We become very resourceful and start looking, okay, let's look at these hashtags. This one worked, this one didn't work. And I think, Fons and many of you will agree that creating that wakelet and then sending that tweet directly to your wakelet, so you have a list of awesome tweets from educators. And I know I have one that's interesting, need to look at it later. So one of my collections is just to look at that. So again, connecting with like-minded teachers, searching those hashtags, and finding ideas, and and the Twitter chats also. And it's so I guess that's the beauty of that PLN, and just knowing that there's teachers out there that are more than willing to share their ideas.
Awesome, thank you. And speaking of Twitter chats, the one that for the Region 1 area in South Texas would be RGV EDU chat. That's the one where we usually talk about education, and that is for Region 1 South Texas. But just like our Geg group, that chat welcomes anybody from anywhere. It is not restricted to South Texas. Region 1 teachers is anybody in education around the world is welcome to join. Okay, so anybody else? Yes, and it's Sundays at 7 p.m. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. Anybody else wants to? Well, actually, we have about 5 minutes left. So if anybody else wants to say anything, it'll be the last comment we'll have. Oh, and another reason as to why we use, another reason as to why we use the Twitter handle for attendance is because I need to keep track of who's attending the meeting. And the only way that I can actually keep track of this is by checking their Twitter handles. Without a Twitter handle, I can only assume who is who. All right. Okay, so my little girls, as you can hear, are anxious to have daddy
Excited.
back.
That's awesome.
So I think it's time. The hour is over, and I think we're ready to move on.
Awesome.
All right, thank you all for being here. Y'all are awesome, and I'll see you in a month or sooner, I hope.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Y'all take care.
Maggie Ojeda says, try Freddie Meter and start your singing skills.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you,
Hey.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye, everyone. Be safe.
Likewise.
Bye bye.
It's you know what it's saying. It's saying so and so abandonó la reunión. I'm gonna. I know. Hold on. Omar, mira, Omar López abandonó la reunión.
Adonado de Leon.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, y'all.
Bye, guys.
Hold on. I'm gonna tweet these because